Okay. If not, what I'll do is I'll stick around if you want to ask some questions in private afterwards. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew. Yeah, the question is, are we required to report things that, it sounds to me like kind of a game of telephone. Maybe I've heard third or fourth hand that something happened. Yeah, as it relates to students, as you can imagine, that occurs, and so we kind of have to fight through a lot of misinformation sometimes. I would tell you, err on the side of caution. Be prudent if you think there's some reasonable basis and you're not sure whether that's been reported, bring it forward. If it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere, but the effort will be then to try and substantiate or figure out what's going on, who's involved, is there somebody that, because we do find that out from time to time, a second or third hand account that sounds like just sort of a passing by rumor that turns out to be something that wasn't reported appropriately at the time. So I think being more cautious, more out of an abundance of caution, just report those things, even if it sounds like, I have no idea if this is true. That's the beauty of, collectively, we don't all bear that responsibility of determining whether or not it is true. Our job is simply to listen and report. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Okay, good point. The question was domestic abuse. The way that Title IX reads and Colorado law reads is domestic violence falls under Title IX. It is an intimate partner violence, and so the federal law talks about things like stalking, dating violence, domestic violence, and others. Those fall under domestic violence in Colorado. Anytime there was an intimate partner relationship, that then even a harassment case or something like that is going to fall under that DV aggravator. And there's going to be both law enforcement consequences as well as a Title IX investigation. So domestic violence is very much included in the Title IX reporting. Right. I would go to the online report, absolutely. And there's plenty of opportunities to put all the information in as best as you know it, as well as the narrative, and include anything and everything that you know to get us going in the right direction as quickly as possible so we can look into it and investigate whether or not there has been a misconduct violation or not. So domestic violence, to answer your question directly, is covered by Title IX and is part of our mandatory reporting. That's right. Does not matter where. That's right. Whether the student is a perpetrator or victim is also, our ability to hold another party accountable may change, but our obligations don't change in terms of supporting both of those parties. That's right. Yeah. And if somebody discloses a potential domestic violence situation to you, you must report that. Absolutely. Thank you for that question and that clarification. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, good question. So in the onboarding process, both at orientation and opening weekend, we spend a lot of time on this issue. We talk about sexual consent. We talk about healthy relationships. We talk about university resources. We talk during FYI, we make all these presentations. And so there's probably 3 distinct points, a minimum of 2, where students are going to get this opportunity to hear about what our policies are, what constitutes sexual violence, what is consent, and then what are the resources that the university has in place for you if that doesn't happen. We do a lot of other programming around these issues as well, but on the onboarding process, on the very front end, before they've ever stepped foot in the classroom, they should have had at least 2 different trainings and exposures to that. Yeah, so again, we are all bear that responsibility of the reporting, so wherever they go. I think what we find is that whether it's residence life or the mentor's office or a lot of you for faculty, you are their closest connection, right? You are that relationship, that one person on campus that they most trust. So there's a number of those places between the student wellness office and counseling and mentors, and I mean, there's a number of those places where it just depends on the student, right? For some of our student athletes, the one place they feel safe is with their coach, with their team in that locker room. And so that creates that coach as a position where they may be the first person that they disclose that information to. So we have a number of resources for the students in terms of places they can go and support they can get. I would tell you, though, as a practical matter, I think everybody in this room who has close interaction with students ought to plan on being somebody that needs to be prepared if a student discloses that to you to help support them and get resources going as quickly as possible.